Hi, everybody, and welcome to IAB Brand Disruption Summit. And I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. My name's Kinsella. I'm the president of TVSquared. We are going to be digging into one of the most exciting topics of the moment with two fantastic marketers from Papa John's and from Drizly. We're going to be talking about the metrics that matter in today's converged world. I'm going to get straight into the conversation because we don't have enough time to cover everything that we want to talk about today. Let's have these two fantastic individuals introduce themselves, their role, and their brands. Jeff, I'm coming to you first.
Thanks, Joe. Jeff Hagen will work at Papa John's, overseeing all of the media and all the field marketing. So that includes, obviously, measurement, buying, placing, all that fun stuff. Thrilled to be here.
Awesome. Thanks. And Peter, coming to you next.
Sure. Thank you. Peter Tardif, Senior Director of Growth at Drizly, overseeing all of our paid acquisition and SEO channels.
Fantastic. So we have, for everybody that has been, in lockdown, struggling through the pandemic, these are probably two brands that have kept us going. We have pizza and we have alcohol delivery. So I want to start by asking, are you guys back to what you would consider the new normal post-COVID? Jeff, really interested, like you guys have, retail stores. How did Papa John's fare? Did you do more online? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we had great success. We were doing really well before the pandemic, and obviously we continue to do well. We actually, our Q2 earnings have come out. Our Q3 will be coming out very shortly, and we're super excited about the growth and the trajectory our company is on and the path going forward and coming back and, connecting with a lot more consumers.
That's wonderful to hear. Very happy to hear that. And Drizly, I mean, surely, Peter, you've seen explosive growth. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, COVID definitely drove a lot of growth for the business, growth that, quite honestly, we may not have been prepared for. It definitely accelerated. I think as things are coming back to normal or slightly or close to normal, there's certainly some headwinds ahead in consumer behavior. So I think that's true for not only alcohol delivery, but any delivery company out there today. But when we look back 2 years, growth is really, really high.
Fantastic. These are two great stories. I have to say, at TVSquared, we saw delivery absolutely crush it in COVID, and we were working with many companies that were doing food delivery, alcohol delivery, pizza, you name it. And actually now we're still, we're really seeing QSR surge. We've just added location data to our platform, so we're being inundated by the likes. But I think, the use of everybody using an app and a coupon or a discount code, really got people leaning into this. So, let's get into the detail a little bit more. Papa John's has long been a staple of linear when I think about it, linear TV advertising, while Drizly came to this with potentially more focus on digital. Fair to say, in the market, we are seeing a seismic shift where advertisers, both traditional and more digitally native, are wading into cross-channel, cross-platform. I'd love for you to share on stage today how you both are thinking about reach across connected and linear. Jeff, coming to you first on that one.
Yeah, so you're correct. Linear has historically been a major part of Papa John's in the way that we kind of advertise. And we are and have been leaning more and more into the connected space, right? And thinking about streaming. We're approaching it more, Joe, in terms of a balance of live and on demand, and trying to think about what are those major moments that we want to be part of. And then also those other, water cooler moments where people still are talking about it, don't want to miss out. And then adopting ourselves to figure out, because I'm sure just like Drizly, we sit on a lot of first party data. So how do you balance the need to be connecting with millions of people, getting down to more precise and more targeted messaging, and finding that right balance in between the two, because you need them both in today's world, right? Who are the consumers that you need to continue to reach, continue to communicate with, and help fall in love with your brand to drive those sales at the end of the day. So we have a good balance of both right now, and just we're barely dipping our toe into what's possible with some of the data and measurement that we have.
Yeah, and I think, we're certainly seeing like measurement and outcomes and attribution and all that being table stakes. So Peter, how have you come into Drizly and really kind of got your arms around it and said, this is going to be our strategy for television as we grow?
Yeah, so TV is playing a pretty critical role right now in our growth. So like a lot of D2C startup companies, we sort of rode the growth wave from SEM to Facebook and social. And now I think looking for that, broader reach for the brand to sort of drive that next phase of growth. So, as fast as our business grew during COVID, there's still fairly low category awareness and brand awareness in the marketplace. And for the most part, we set the category awareness, and most typical consumers don't even realize that alcohol delivery is even legal in where they live. So we're still sort of setting the marketplace, and and TV is going to be a critical part for us to sort of broaden our reach and reach those next phases of growth that we have in store.
So curiosity here, because even though I've been in America for 15 years, I am still a Brit. How many states are we not allowed to deliver booze in America?
There are still a few states that we do not operate in, and the complexity of our business is state by state. So not every state operates the same, and we have to comply to the regulations in every single state, both from delivery standpoint, but also from marketing and promotion and all of that. So it's still a very highly regulated industry. And the interesting part for us is we have actually two ways for new buyers to come into our platform. So typical like a CPG brand and a retailer, we have a lot of sell-through product with our retailers. So we do a lot of collaborative advertising with some of the larger brands on the product side who drive a lot of new buyers to our platform. And then we actually feed them with measurement data to help them optimize their own campaigns, where they're usually stuck in sort of a fuzzy brand world where they can't really drive any measurement. So we have all the data and we can help them with that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of conversation still around, if you're Papa John's, is it brand lift or precision? And Jeff, it was one of the conversations that you and I had, I think it was only yesterday. And I'm sure Drizly is more precision than brand lift, but I might be wrong. Jeff, you want to comment?
Well, I mean, I think that it's critical for all of us, right? Like there's an opportunity for you to connect with consumers in a more one-on-one base, but at the same time, when you're, getting out there and selling millions of pizzas every single month, you need to kind of have that scale that kind of comes with it. So it's finding that precision, but it's also, making sure that just treat it like you're a consumer. What do you want to see as you're kind of going through there, and where are the opportunities? And don't, with today's technology, if you're a vegetarian and we're serving you a pepperoni pizza in those places where you're able to personalize it, we failed. Right. Yeah. We need to do better. And that's where we're kind of headed. And that's why we're excited to work with a lot of the partners that we are.
Awesome. And Peter, from the Drizly side, you guys think about precision and performance every minute of every day?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, every dollar we spend in the marketplace is measured, and we expect a return on investment back from that. We certainly have secondary metrics around brand awareness, but it's not our primary goal. We're trying to drive buyers to our platform. Yeah,
100%. Okay, makes sense. So everyone's talking about currency, moving everything to the impression. As buyers, both coming at it from different backgrounds, how do you think about buying across all forms of premium video? And I kind of want to tag on to that just because it's a conversation that I keep being asked about as a measurement company. How do we think about moving away from GRPs and traditional ways of planning and buying?
Yeah, so for us, do we ever talk about GRPs? Sure, when we're talking to certain people, we'll discuss GRPs because that's a language people are used to. However, when we're planning and we're working with our agencies, we're not focused on TRP levels. If you chase TRPs, you start to get too much duplication, too much waste as you're kind of going into it, versus starting to think about effective levels. Like, how many people do you need to reach and at what level? Just go back to effective reach as you're kind of going in here. And then understand that not all impressions are created equal, right? There's certain moments that matter more for us as we're kind of going into that. And if there's a way for us to sit there and find that and understand the impact that it has, like Peter was just saying, we do measure too. Like there's times when we need to kind of go in there and do it. So we talk more on effective reach, Joe, when we're kind of going about it from that level, but we'll go down to the one-on-one, conversations too, and just say, what is that exact moment, that exact impression that we need to have to kind of move that sale.
And do you have any experience, Peter, before I come to you, Jeff, you have any experience in conversations with your agency? Again, certainly from conversations that I'm finding myself in as TVSquared, the agencies are struggling with the complexity and the fragmentation, and it's kind of, like, I feel bad for them, right? That they're trying to figure all of this out, and they're trying to put together full cross-platform reach and frequency and outcomes, and I don't necessarily think it's been set up the best way for them.
I will say I'm lucky to work with the group that I am. I think that we have a lot of people that are constructively discontent, and they're trying to figure out and the right way to move forward. They're not going to rip down anything and criticize anything. That's what I mean by constructively discontent. But we're curious, and we're trying to find that better measurement. So when you have someone like Mike Bregman kind of leading it for us on our agency side, we feel better about the possibilities of where we go. But we have to understand that nothing's perfect right now. Yeah. And we have to continuously get out there and see, well, what else can we kind of do better?
Right. And there's no silver bullet here, right? Like you say, it's just going to be like, how do we make up the pie to best service the marketer to get you, the KPIs and get you the return on investment? Peter, anything you want to say about how Drizly's thinking about traditional TV currencies and the changes needed to create these consistent metrics?
Yeah, so I will just say we're not as sophisticated. We're not doing really cross-channel impression measurement or anything like that yet. What really impacted us and probably a lot of other D2C marketers were the iOS changes that happened back in May, and all the privacy rules that came into place. So that really impacted our measurement on the digital side, and less so on the TV side. But I think that's sort of transitioning us to a whole different way of measuring all of our channels and looking at more of a mixed model to understand where to put our investment. But yeah, we're not at the phase yet where we're thinking about cross reach.
Okay, I mean, just staying with you for a second, like the metrics that you care about most and what informs your decision making. You obviously, we've done a ton of reports at TVSquared because we do work with a lot of D2Cs. When you say every dollar you spend, you expect to get a return on investment. Are there TV metrics that you're all the time tracking, Peter, that you can't live without?
Yeah, I mean, number one is incremental cost of acquisition. So that's the first one. And, and obviously we look at different attribution windows and different ways to attribute on a channel level, but that's primarily the number one metric for us. And, we have goals as a business, and we'll calibrate that to the value of the new buyer coming into the door. And so, we need to make sure that those are right, first and foremost. So, the cost of, when we start to look at linear and CTV and all these other options, like the cost of the reach is less of a factor than the acquisition cost that we get as a result. So I'm willing to pay more for a targeted impression if that targeted impression is more likely to convert on our platform and drive an overall incrementally lower cost of acquisition. Okay,
great insight. Jeff, how do you think about it?
I mean, somewhat similar, right? As Peter just kind of described it, right?
Yeah.
You have to balance the precision with it, because sometimes you end up narrowing your audience. Though I think that might be the slight difference, right? In order for us to hit our business goals, we can't be too precise, meaning just focus on too many customers, because it's unlikely that we'd ever do that. So we got to find that balance as we're kind of going in there. So sometimes we have to just use the best data that we have that is available as we're kind of going in there, and try not to optimize too fine a point, because then we can actually have a little bit longer term effects. But it's a fascinating space, thinking about how everything is working together too, knowing that we have history of our brand, knowing that people have certain rituals that they lean into, a pizza night with the family or whatnot, and that we can capitalize on, and then start thinking about how everything works together. How does video across all the channels work together? combined with, any other of the advertising metrics.
Okay, so when you think about, the role of data, and again, I think, it's almost like we've gone from, very little and lots of people kind of folding their arms and saying this isn't possible, to now having so much that people are all almost like, well, what do we do with it? There's walled gardens, there's audience segments, there's full cross-platform, there's deduped reach and frequency. Like, where does it all fit? I guess the question for you is, how has the role of data changed when it comes to TV advertising at your company? And how are you leveraging first-party data for TV advertising to better understand the customer journey? And I know we've kind of touched on that already a little bit, but again, how's it changed just in the last couple of years with the world changing, the pandemic, and all things considered? Jeff, how would you position it?
No, it's a great question. So there's certain things that you have to be careful not to let data drive you insane, right? And not make some of the decisions. So right. Going back to what we said earlier, right? And this is how you're talking about how we touched on it. There's certain moments, like if you think about watching a sporting event, right? That, the Braves, the World Series, millions of people watching that, right? That's a moment for us to go in that we know that sports is a moment for us to be able to kind of talk to, which is why, we were there. But there's also times when people are suddenly just, renting a movie through their television set. And there's an opportunity right then and there where you're going to have a captured audience that's kind of going in there. And we might lean more into first party data there versus, some other things and say, okay, here's what we know about this individual or these groups of households. Here's how we kind of customize it. And then we start thinking about, well, what is that sale worth? What is that return, expected return as we're kind of going in there? So we lean into it, but we got to find that balance, Joe. That's what we talked about before. When do you focus just one-on-one versus needing to have, those millions as it kind of goes in there? The important thing is to measure it post, right? And to understand, like Peter was talking about it earlier, it's not so much that you're focused on what the cost is. It's literally the return on investment that you get. What is the ROI? So if something costs, $100 CPM, that only works if you're, making all that on top of it. Right? So you got to find the balance of kind of those big moments, but also to make sure that you're able to measure the impact on the end of it.
And how do you guys think about finding new customers, right? Like, how do you even start? Because I guess for Papa John's, you've got like the brand history. You guys have been around for years. You're a household name. I get that it's the balance, but when you think about like specific audience targets and segments, is there a specific way you think about the customer journey, or what is it? Is it test and learn? How do you think about that, Jeff?
So we always start looking at who we have first, right? Because there's some people that we're lucky enough to order us all the time, and there's some people that order us every once in a while. So it's always easier for us to kind of start with who we have first to kind of figure out, is there a possibility to get them to order us just one more time a year, something like that. When we start looking at competitors, same thing that I'm sure that other people do. When we came out with Epic Stuffed Crust Pizza, obviously Pizza Hut has had that for a very long time. So there's obviously a natural draw for us to kind of go in there and say, hey, those are some of those consumers that we want to convert over. The category that we have, Joe, which we're lucky enough, is like the vast majority of households in the United States are eating pizza, right? Yeah. So we're in a category that people love. It's just for us to be able to figure out how we can kind of get a little bit more of that pizza wallet and figure out how we can kind of get in there.
Okay. And Peter, I think it's probably fair to say that most households in America are drinking alcohol. So what do you think about first party data and the customer journey?
Yeah, it's a lot different for us because what we're doing is basically digitizing alcohol sales and bringing it online. So it's, really creating new ground. So our audience is pretty broad, and, and to the point earlier, you have to balance the targeting efforts with the return. We actually lean more toward low cost, broadly targeted audiences today because I don't think we really know exactly who our targets are, and we're starting to do more work around that. We have enough of a database now internally where we can start to organize and analyze that and figure out who our highest value segments are. But with any D2C brand, like, you have to kind of throw out the COVID data to a certain extent and see which behaviors will persist post-COVID to say, all right, well, these are the real customers that value delivery and selection and ordering online or through an app. So yeah, I think it's still a work in progress for us. And we lean toward, basically, an adult, like you said, an adult audience that drinks alcohol. So
right. And I wonder, and I ask you both this question, will the world ever return to how it was? I mean, I know for a fact that I have become dependent on certain delivery services. That means I never have to go into a store again. Why am I ever going to go back to going into a store? I guess, that's the question for, the future. Has it fundamentally changed the way that we're going to consume?
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective, it has,
Right.
for sure. Has it changed 100% of people? Probably not, but there are some behaviors that are going to persist. I mean, you're recognizing the value of having things delivered to your home, and all those models, I think, are being refined and fine-tuned along the way. But for sure, people are recognizing that value, and certainly, with food delivery previously, and now alcohol delivery, we've probably accelerated growth by easily 3 years, where we thought the industry would be to where it is today.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say on the measurement and outcome side as well. Certainly, we've seen more progress made actually in COVID, because the ROI piece became critical for everyone, not just D2C advertisers, right? Everybody wanted to understand, with incremental reach, how many net new households am I reaching as a result of trying all these CTV platforms? And that's why we've kind of been inundated. So I think it's a strong position to be in, and it's going to be really interesting to see, what happens next. I mean, I think for the three of us here today, our work is never done, right? We just keep learning from every data point that we get. So it wouldn't be a brand disruption panel without me asking the how is it all going to shake out question. Where people say like CES 2022, I'm like, that's too soon. Like, let's talk about CES in 2030. Like, what's that going to be like? And let's just hope that it's not in Vegas. Jeff, I'll come to you.
Well, I mean, I wish I had my crystal ball and figure it all out, right?
Right.
Joe, I just think we just have to embrace change, right? Like you guys were just talking about, and we've got to work together as a group and figure out some of this stuff. Like we've got to figure out measurement collectively as a team, and we got to do it as a partnership, right? That's what we got to embrace as we're kind of going into it. I mean, our landscape has changed. Pizza used to be the biggest thing that was delivered at home. Now think of all the other things you can kind of go in there. So we have to be able to measure the impact and use our marketing dollars, efficiently, knowing that the competitive landscape has changed. So I wish I knew where everything was going, but I can say, like, I applaud the IAB for coming out and taking certain stances. I love it when I work with media partners versus media vendors. Partners will do that learning agenda with you, and they all understand that they are one of several that, can kind of help you grow your business. And that's where I think we just need to continue to go, is like work on this together as partners, embrace the fact that it's changed, and take some chances that we don't have all the answers yet, but let's work together to kind of get there.
Absolutely love that. Thank you. Peter, coming to you.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, it really focuses in on the measurement piece and the privacy restrictions that we know have happened already and more are coming down the road. Affects a lot of our digital channels, but in some regards, like TV, using the deterministic panels, it's sort of our last frontier of deterministic attribution that we have. Like we don't have full deterministic attribution in our digital channels anymore due to the iOS restrictions. So I think what we think about is sort of transitioning from a deterministic attribution world to a probabilistic attribution, and starting to think about how do we model this stuff, how do we build machine learning to understand how to invest our dollars, where the orders are coming from, where new buyers are coming from, how they buy, what they do. So I just see a world full of a lot of machine learning and a lot of AI and all those other buzz terms that are floating around today that will probably have new meaning in 5 years, but I see us doing a lot more of that data science work the next few years.
Fantastic. Thank you both so much. And for everybody that's listening and watching, you've heard it here. Papa John's and Drizly are two very big, fast-growing companies, and they are the ones with the money. So let's make sure we are servicing them in the way that they want to be serviced. I encourage all of us to take this giant change and this giant tidal wave that we're currently riding as an opportunity to embrace this unprecedented time in our industry and really work together. Let's collaborate. Let's put our egos to one side. Let's listen to what the marketers and the brands and the advertisers are asking for, and let's get off our asses and take action. And in the meantime, I'm going to go and order myself a pizza and have a drink. Jeff and Peter, thank you so much for joining us today.